And we're live. That's it. All right. Welcome to Gallows Humor Games with Dean. That's me. I got my good pal Crispy to my left. And today we're going to talk about some very important stuff in the TTRPG world, and that's GM preparation. How much are GMs doing? Are they doing enough? Are they not doing enough? What's it look like in the extreme? And we're going to dive in and do all that stuff. But before we do that, I like to get this out of the way right away, Crispy. Although I will say you can find his channel in the link of the description. But I'd like you to introduce yourself and tell me who are you, man?
Yeah, sure. So I'm Crispy. Tablerunner Crispy is the channel. You'll find me at Tablerunner. And what about me? Well, I guess I would say I'm really enthusiastic about a certain style of play. I love role-playing games. I love a lot of games, but role-playing games hold a special category, and they're just near and dear to my heart. So I spend a lot of time talking about what I think makes role-playing games so unique, which, spoiler alert, well, it's the role-playing. I know. Hey, shocking stuff. So I'll look at games. I watch a lot of actual games. I react to other games, and I give my hopefully honest, and if people are willing to broaden their horizons a little bit, helpful critiques of what I think would improve people's experience in the game, and things that have worked and things that have not worked in my own experience. But that's where I'm coming from. I'm a role play fanatic, dirty role player, just degenerate, and been doing it for a long time. Got my start in the mid '80s, and I've been at it since then. Ironically enough, not a D&D kid. I started with totally different systems in the mid '80s, and wasn't really into D&D until, maybe, what was that, 97, I think.
Wow. What did you start with, Crispy?
I started, it's a funny thing. I started with Robotech RPG and Riffs and Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles back in 1986.
Wow. And the soft cover?
Yeah, the soft cover with the palladium peel.
My God! Yeah, yes,
that was me, and
you just unlocked a hidden recess in my brain.
Absolutely. Wow. So that's where I started. I did not start with, the second edition D&D, or I didn't start there. And for me, I was always more into that sci-fi element, and so Shadowrun was a big one for me to get started, and then from there, of course, I did eventually get into the D&D side of things, but that's where I started. So I've been at it for a while, kids. I've been at it for a while. I mean, I'm not trying to argue by my 40 years, but I'm not that new. I know the tourist label gets bandied about quite a bit. I don't think Dean and I fall into that category.
No, I don't think so. Maybe I might be a bit of a tourist to 4D, but I am not a tourist to TTRPGs.
Well, I mean, we all are, Dean. Like, this is something. It's still brand new, right?
In the scheme of life, it is very much a fawn, as it were.
That's right. That's right. We're still early days, folks. Early days. Cool. Not too late for us to join.
We can still break it up and fix it. No,
absolutely. We're still experimenting away. What works, what doesn't work.
Yeah, I have a similar case. Since I haven't done an intro video yet, I'll make this brief since people are here probably for the title. But my uncle dropped the red box in front of me one day, and he said, "Read that." And I remember taking off the cellophane was like a religious experience.
Yeah.
And then I had to, wax on my own numbers on the dice. I don't know if you remember that stuff.
Yeah, I do.
Dice didn't even have numbers on them. Old guy talk.
Yeah, same thing. Uncle dropped a box on me. I think he was trying to hide it from my grandmother. And I looked through it, and I'm like, okay, so where are the guns? And I'm like, okay, there's no guns. So I just lived on the shelf for a while until finally I'm like, oh, I guess I better look at this.
I'm forever tortured by the Rust Monster. Right? So
yes,
I seem to remember in the solo adventure, the Rust Monster. Yeah. So yeah, suffice it to say, we've been doing this a long time. But I think one of the things that at least you and I try to do is we try to examine our own stuff and say, do we like what this is? Like, what is it about this that we like? What is it that we don't like? And how does it work? And I think the question posed tonight about GM prep is a pretty big one. I would say I've GM'd as much as I've played? Probably not true. I probably GM'd more. To be clear, I've never done any GMing in what y'all have labeled the 4D style, or specifically, if people don't know what that is, it's basically trying to be in character the whole time.
That's right.
Say where you are, say what you do, and keep it simple. Keep
role
the
play
rule
everything.
books, role play everything.
Role play everything. Role play combat. Role play everything.
The GM doesn't exist as a head with wings to pester with inane questions and
that's exactly right.
Hypothetical turn taking. I love that idea because even before the coining of the term, we've all had that happen to us. We've all been in games in those moments. Those are the moments we remember. Those excellent role play moments where people are coming together. Something's happening at the table. And then we go, why are we only doing this like 30% of the time?
Yeah, like why couldn't I have that the whole time?
Right.
And even if we cut my 4-hour session down to 2 hours, but it was all of the good stuff, then that would be so much better. And that really we don't want to wax too poetic on that, but that is the genesis of this whole style movement. And and there'll be people that say, "Hey, we've done that before," and I'm like, "That's fantastic. We're just trying to do more of it." And
right. And I don't disagree. I know people say that, people get defensive, and then we have some of the quote aggressive role players get defensive when people say that, and we're like, no, they did. They just didn't do it the whole session.
That's right.
Everybody's had those moments where it was locked in, right?
Sure. You get the flow state moment. Like, well, that's the flow state moment. When people talk about that, they're very rarely talking about the prep that they put into things. To bring it onto topic. But I just don't think that's what. I'm like, I'm so like we were joking before we went live, folks, about how both of us were serial over preppers.
Oh my God.
It just results in binders of things that you cannot let go, but you really should. And worlds that you've created. Just write your freaking novel, okay?
Right.
And all of these things.
Or your supplement. For me, it was a supplement. I need to make a supplement.
That's fine. Like you're making a setting, great, go for it. But if you're doing that kind of stuff, then that's not going to necessarily translate into a better experience at the table when it matters most.
I agree.
And so it'll be an interesting conversation.
Exhibit A.
Let's go for it. We'll look at this.
I want you to look at this. This is I'm showing you my dirty underwear.
Yeah.
This is all done by math based on square footages of how big population centers would be, because for some reason I think that's deeply important to the role play experience.
Yeah.
And it's just not. Like this was days of war, days of going, okay, how much crops did they yield? What was the average if we take an overland place like England? Dude, so I would do this shit constantly, and then it was a huge waste of time. So,
it is. And it's not that it's not it's not even that that kind of detail is never relevant. That's not the point.
Right.
It's not that it's never relevant. It's just that the case when it would be relevant is such an edge case, and it's not necessarily going to be the focus of the. So really, maybe a random table would be better for that. Like, we don't worry so much about that as the game masters, because then it becomes front and center for us. But do the players come in saying, well, I really wonder if the percentage of population distribution between urban and rural fits the geography of this? And, I think your river deltas aren't drawn right. That's the thing about your maps, right? You draw maps. There's always going to be some autist on the internet saying, that's not how rivers work.
They don't flow that direction.
They don't flow that way. And
I'm
like, honestly, your players probably don't have the map, and that's okay. And if it's wrong, it's wrong.
It didn't stop me from printing one half the size of my wall.
Exactly.
On poster board, which cost $100, by the way.
Of course, I've done it. I know.
So I will say this. I think what happens with me, Crispy, and I don't know if this happens to you in your serial over prepping of your youth.
Mm-hmm.
I can't even say youth, because for me it was like a year and a half ago. But do you ever for me it was, I would say, okay, how big is, like, what's the territorial capacity? Like if I suspect my players are going to travel to a place because we've decided this is part of whatever's going to happen in session 0, then I have to know that place exists as realistically as possible within
Sure.
the thing. And I
Sure.
think that rabbit hole tends me to over prep for games where then I'm suddenly going, okay, is this a Shire? Is there a Shire Reeve? Is it a barony? Is it maybe a duchy? Well, who does that guy report to? And blah, 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 blah. And then I get into the NPC list and all of that
Sure.
shit. And then
Sure.
I realize I've spent so much time doing this.
Well, I mean, in your
And
defense of you a year and a half ago,
yes,
that really, I don't think that if you're enjoying that, like if you sat down and be like, I'm really having fun
I do
going
have fun,
through, I'm
admittedly.
loving it, and to me, that's different than kind of prep as work. That to me
Right.
seems like prep as play. It's almost like you're playing a solo game there. Like, this is kind of fun. Hey, I like City Skylines too. Why not we? There's a component of what that is, right? That world building component as prep. So really,
Yes.
maybe what we should do before we go and make some people very upset, we should probably define what we mean by game prep.
Let's do
That's
it.
a pretty blanket term, right?
I
Like,
agree. Yes.
because it is something like, well, it's world building, but then world building also is often associated with, the plot and
Right.
the
That's
arcs
a
of this.
great separation.
So what is it? Like, so prep is I'm using it as a blanket term,
We both are.
which is just going to cover all of that. So there's encounter prep, and there's
Right.
the NPC prep, and then there's the geography and the world building and all of these things. There's even things like, who's going to be bringing the soda? there's
Thanks,
no,
Bacon.
but
What's up,
seriously,
Bacon?
the prep is a huge term. Like, it covers things
Right.
that, notwithstanding my own filthy role player habits, there's things that you could say, like, so for example, it's broad enough that you could say, well, my game prep is thinking about this or reading a fantasy novel that I'm going to shamelessly, what is that? Plagiarize? Yes.
Absolutely.
I'm going to plagiarize this. I'm going to watch this movie. I'm watching a movie for ideas about NPCs and how they're going to act. And is that prep? No, I'm just watching a movie. I'm enjoying watching the movie. But
Right.
so what I'm talking about, though, when back to the question of, excuse me, what do game masters prep too much? Well, most of the time when we think prep, you sit down at the table with your notebook and your dice and you start writing things out, right? Like, that's
with a stack of books next to you.
Stack of books
a
next to you.
monster
Absolutely.
manual flagged.
All of that. If you love creating the world as a game, as a pastime for you, there's nothing wrong with that. But this is the key, like Max is saying here. And thanks for coming by, Max.
Yeah, thanks to all the guys who showed up in chat real quick.
Yeah.
Appreciate you guys. I see.
And please, sub to Dean's channel here.
Yeah, that'd be dope. We got Max Bacon. We got Gail Guy. We got Nick. Uriah. We got to shout him out. He's not here, but he wants us to shout us out when he's not driving to work tomorrow when he's listening.
There you go.
Yeah.
So I think that you can turn prep into a game, a subsystem that you enjoy.
Or a creative outlet.
A creative outlet. Exactly.
Like some people joke, they say, okay, you hear the joke a lot. Like you're a writer or a bad writer or a failed writer or whatever writer, and you're trying to use D&D to write your story. And I understand that, because there are times where you're like, oh, I imagine a story and I want people to. I don't think it's always like we got to kind of calm down by going, you're a railroading, controlling maniac. I think some GMs are just like, I have a cool idea, I want to share it with you guys.
So there's a difference. I completely
huge
agree.
Difference.
There's a huge difference between storyboarding out everything that's going to happen in the session, all the encounters, where the encounter is going to take place. And I think that's over prep. Like, I think that what that's doing then is it's starting to create a script. And I think scripting is bad for a role-playing experience where the game is really the world, a believable world, a simulated world in which characters can be role-played with a degree of of integrity and fidelity to those characters. And the world has to make enough sense that the role play can happen. So
Agreed.
you can't, it's very difficult to role play a character in a complete vacuum.
Right.
Like you have to have some,
I
like,
cannot role play in a vacuum. I'm very
No,
bad. I'm
I can't either.
very. I just
So-
default to Dean.
yes.
Because I harped upon this a little bit very briefly when I was talking to my dear friend Bacon in the last episode that I did with him, where I was talking about I really character creation. That's a whole nother video. Like we'll do a character creation video. I don't want to get off topic, but I got to spend time understanding who I am and what makes this person unique. And it has very little to do with the statistics.
Well, and you're right. That's right.
But
And sorry, go ahead.
No. As far as the world goes, you're right. I think it's, when I'm thinking about it, I think, okay, what you do get a lot of times is that you have a lot of players that are abused by GMs because GMs have an idea that they want to put forward. And when you try to go against their ideas, then you start to realize with those types of GMs that they've created a very small world. Very detailed world, but it's very fixated on quote unquote railroads because you cannot go off base. And when you do, the GM makes it very clear that you can't do that. In those games, I have no interest in playing it. The reason I role play instead of play computer games, and I do both, is because I want to turn and walk any direction I want.
Sure.
And I think what got me into adjusting my prep to some of the stuff we were saying at the beginning was World of Darkness. To be completely honest with you, World of Darkness taught me, Vampire the Masquerade taught me that know some NPCs and know what their relationships are and what their plans are, and understand the place where the players will be. And that will facilitate, inadvertently, it will facilitate role play. Like, we talk about role play as the goal, and I think we should endeavor to prepare to make that as easy as possible and as engaging as possible. That's how I feel. So that's ultimately what I'm hoping to do, but that isn't always the case of what really happens, right?
No.
As we know.
And you know, I don't know, I'm going to offend people again. It's my job.
Do it. It's Gallows Humor's Games.
I'm really not, I'm not enamored with the railroad term. And the reason why is because I think it's overused. So
I agree.
So with the railroad, it's like, okay, well, if you have a definite start and you already know where the end is, then it's a railroad. I'm like, well, I don't disagree. But what I'm suggesting is I don't like scripted games.
Right.
I don't like where everything that happens in the game is something, or even I think it's even poor where a GM spends a lot of time prepping things such as, if the players do this, then I do this. If they do this, then I do this.
Tree.
So you have a tree, but that still is, in a sense, starting to violate the premise of the game, which is unlimited degrees of freedom within the fictional world, as long as it makes sense in the fictional world, and those characters are behaving as if they actually exist. So they have some motivation that makes sense. They're internally consistent, or they're psychotic, and then it makes sense that they're not internally consistent. But at either case, it's different to have a script. Everything that happens, and this is what I see most prep videos are. This encounter, then this happens, this encounter. You know, it's just essentially just a flow chart.
Yep.
This. I think better prep is to have a good premise, like you say, in session 0, whatever, come up with, like, here's the initial premise of the game. This is the starting conflict. This is what the bad guys are doing. This is what they're going to do.
Yes.
Okay. Now, what the players do is what the players do. And my prep between sessions is just, did the players do something that the bad guys now know about that has altered their plans?
Right.
Yes. If they have, then what would be the most logical thing for those bad guys to do, given that I understand what their motivations are? If the bad guys don't have any clue of what the players had done, then their plans haven't changed. They just continue to do their thing.
Yes.
The world has to be believable. And that's what I'm worried about. I'm not worried about okay, well, I guess I better get an encounter for this. I think some of the old school guys have a better idea with that, where they just say, based on like part of their prep, as I understand it, and I've played some old school for sure. Um, the some of their prep is just to say, in this particular world, given this geography, given this location, these are the potential problems, conflicts that can
Yes.
arise, and they have a table there. I think that's good prep. And then you can, depending on where they go, I mean, you have all of that at your fingertips. I don't mind that at all. So I'm not anti, um, you know, some people say, well, I run no prep games, and then they just have nothing but random tables. And I think that's fine,
Less
up
my
until the
style.
point
Yep.
that the world stops becoming believable.
Correct.
And up until the point where it's kind of a clown shoes sort of, oh, who
It it
knew? I
it
mean,
it, it,
now
it
there's
I think
I
at that
don't
point it starts to. I think if it's all random, I think it does start to feel like, okay, we're really. That almost becomes the center point of the game as
mhm,
opposed to it feels very gamey to me, and maybe that's the wrong way to say it, but it
mhm.
does. And it's funny, it sounds like we're talking about world mastery, but then again, it depends on the scope. Like
Sure it
what
does.
you're describing, I've been in part of from the GM side, I've been part of from the player side, and that is one of my favorite ways to play. I have an old Space Master game I think about where the player characters they owned like a bar, and they were mafia type guys, and it was awesome because weekly it became, what are you guys doing, right? The dreaded phrase, but bear with me. I didn't know what was going to happen. I couldn't prepare a game because they ran this business.
Mhm,
And I was like, cool, what are they going to do? I better make sure to know some of the weirdos who are going to this club. I need to know maybe something bad might go down in the club. Maybe somebody gets shot outside the club. How are they going to deal with that?
mhm.
And you can have that world and you don't have to build out to what's the fourth moon.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Your scope doesn't have to go beyond that city,
Yeah.
right? So, conversely, if I have a crew of pirates and tramp freighters and rogues in their own YT 1300 transport in the Star Wars universe,
Mhm.
have ship will travel, I have to kind of know a lot because they might say, well, we're going to try to knock off this Imperial shipyard and grab a shipping manifest. And then we might end up down on this planet where we want to rip off this. So you got to that's a harder prep. That's a
Sure it
harder
is.
prep because it's a bigger scale game.
Yeah.
And it's just my favorite way to play is just to say premise. Like your premise could be okay. You're the 82nd Airborne.
Mhm.
You're parachuting into France. I mean, that's tight. You probably
There
know
we
some
go.
shit that's going to go down there. There's going to
Yeah.
be some firefights. There's going to be a lot of combat. There's going
Mhm,
to be, I don't have to know how Rommel's doing in Africa. I just
mhm.
need this. This is what I need to build out, and I need
That's
some
true.
cool, so it it depends. Unless the character's like, we're going to try to go to North Africa, then they're just being
Well,
assholes, right?
and
But they
it's
might.
true.
They might,
Or, I
right?
mean, it can be the case that things outside of the scope of what the characters are doing are going to have direct impact eventually on the characters. For example,
Absolutely.
the North Africa campaign turns, and now all of a sudden reinforcements are available
Right.
to send to the front in France. Well, now there's a big problem, right? Or whatever.
Ooh.
Or
And
let's
next week, Crispy, here's what we can do next week. We'll play the North Africa game
sure,
to see how it
sure.
affects the B game.
Exactly.
We'll have the A
Well,
game and the B game.
some people would try this, and I think
Hell
it's an
yeah.
admirable pursuit, is to
Hell yeah.
have a persistent world where some characters are doing something in one part of the world, and other players playing different characters in the same world are maybe doing something different or to counter purposes. And yeah, you can. I think that scope is ambitious.
Yeah.
But my concern when the scope becomes really ambitious is there's a tendency towards scripting. I script
Right.
out this. Everything is a set piece, and I'm
Yes.
I'm kind of anti. No, kinda about it. I don't like the set piece style. So when we're talking prep, guys, we're not saying sit down with all your monster manuals,
No.
build out the perfect combat encounter. No. Don't just build something that would make sense for what it is.
Yes.
And if ideally you build that in the moment that it happens. The prep is what the bad guys are doing, thinking about that.
Right.
What are they up to? They're not just sitting there waiting to be spawned into the character's path. They're doing something. They have their own ambition, their own that kind of prep. For me, that's fun prep. That's what I enjoy.
And it's funny because when I think about different philosophies in their approach to prep, somebody might look through a monster manual, bear with me, and they might go, awesome, I want this to be in the game. I don't think that's a bad thing.
I don't either.
I think if you can go, oh, what a cool creature who's kind of spooky. He really fits this theme we've discussed in session 0. Maybe they'll run across it. Maybe they won't. But if they are, I think that can inspire you a little bit. Now, I think that's a positive way to do it. The negative way to do it is to go, this thing is going to be in the game and they're going to run into it no matter what.
Sure.
Now, I've probably been in games where the GM said that, but I didn't know it. So it becomes philosophically like if somebody railroaded me towards a thing and I don't know it, I don't think I'm upset with that necessarily. And again, maybe railroad's not the right way to say it, but if they've directed me towards a thing that they had in mind, if I feel like I got there from my own volition, I feel pretty good about that. I guess.
I think it's. Can
you tell? Like, can you? If you can't tell,
exactly.
Right,
I mean,
if you can't
sometimes
tell.
you can tell, Dean. Right? Like you can.
God,
you
yes.
show up.
Are you kidding?
You've seen this. Like new people do this sometimes. I mean, I know no one in our chat will ever have done this, but
of
you'll
course
just
not.
show up
Pure
in the first
souls.
room of the dungeon, and then you open up the door, and it's the first, like it's the letter A monster, first page of the monster manual, and you fight that, and then you turn the page, and then it's the next one, and then you did right. That's
terrific.
But you have like that does still happen out there,
right?
Or I've been guilty of this in the past. You get the module, and then you just slavishly like stay word for word on the module, and all your prep is reading the module to know how best to keep the players on the path that leads to the next module, because I've already bought all 6 of the books and I need to get this adventure path done. And so we have to do this way, right? So it's again commonly called railroading. I call that scripted. It's just everything is scripted already that's going to happen. It's just a matter of whose name appears over the vanquished foe for hitting the last blow. Like other than that, everything else is predetermined.
I got to be honest with you, Crispy. I like the way you're using the word scripted, because too often I think, and this is relevant to prep. Again, we could probably do a whole GM series with all kinds of different topics, but pursuant to prep, pursuant to the word railroad, I think scripting is a good way to say it, because the common misconception is that sandbox is the opposite of railroading. But I look at sandboxing sometimes as in a desert of nothing to do, because the GM has failed to build out the sandbox. Sandboxes are really cool when there's toys in the sandbox. And I think meaning something for the player characters to interact with, right? We want to facilitate, we want the story that develops, the emerging story, I believe is a better way to say it, to come at the behest of what the characters are doing. But what the characters are doing is going to be, the world around them just can't be a simple desert. I think there has to be stuff there. And I've seen the sandbox games just as scripted as other games. I think it's a common misconception.
It is a misconception. It's just a misconception of those that say, well, I can't have any agency if there's a definite premise to this game. That takes away my agency. I want a pure sandbox where I can choose not to engage with the premise of the game.
Premise, let's define premise real quick.
What I mean by premise is, this is something we like to do in like a session 0 or something. We sit down and say, okay, guys, I'm thinking of a Western. And they're like, okay, what kind of Western? What are we thinking of? And we'll start to use touch points. Yep. So I'm thinking Tombstone. Now, I'm really thinking more spaghetti Western style. Like
High
I'm thinking
Plains or
more,
something.
yeah, exactly. Good, Bad, the Ugly. I think, something like that. I'm thinking more Clint Eastwood. No. I'm thinking more Blazing Saddles. So we have that kind of
Yeah,
talk, and then we say, okay, well, what's the starting premise? And without giving away the bad guy's plans, what we say is, okay, this is the state of affairs in the world right now.
right.
And this is the main problem. If we go this far, at least the game master's already in their mind, and sometimes even sharing this with the players. So for
Sure.
example, I'll give you an example of this. I really enjoy military sci-fi.
Me too.
And so I've experimented with a military sci-fi game. Now, in a military sci-fi game, it doesn't really work as a sandbox per se, not so long as the characters are part of a military unit.
Absolutely.
Each session is a new mission, from the brass down to these high-speed operators. And these guys here will just be, so I'll actually even brainstorm with them. Guys, I'm thinking of this type of mission, and here's the 4-sentence preamble of what the mission would be. Are we all cool with that? And they're like, yeah, this is cool. I'm down with that. That's all they know.
That's
This is the
beautiful.
premise. It's like this is the very, very brief, like not much briefer than actual mission prep, where they have
Of course.
PowerPoints that are hundreds of slides long. No,
Operation Overlord was 4 sentences.
exactly. It's just like this, like we're doing this.
Land on the
And
beach. Get armor on the beach. You guys ready?
that's right. That's right. Take this hill, hold this hill, right?
Right.
Like that could be the premise. And then from there, they have, once it starts, they can decide how they want to handle that. But we're starting with a definite premise.
I love that.
And where I think that the definite premise gets unfairly lumped together with the quote unquote railroad is when you say, well, I don't like that. I like to be able to create my own premise. And I'm thinking, okay, that's fine.
Interesting.
But we've all had experience, poor experience with the quote unquote sandbox style, where, like you said, it's just standing alone in the desert and no one knows what to do next. And we're all kind of looking at each other like, well, what? And I'm like,
Yeah.
why are we even here? And I don't think that's helpful either. I think it's helpful to have, in terms of your prep time, have the prep on what is the premise here. What's the initial conflict, in other words?
Yes.
And the initial conflict, where that initial conflict involves opponents or enemies or antagonists to what the characters will want. And in some cases, we don't know if the characters are going to be antagonistic or not. Like I've had that too.
No idea. Yeah.
In a campaign we were running, I had this collector guy, and the collector guy steals the player character's ship, like on the first session, right? This is mean. He steals their ship. And I mean, it could go either way. Do they just start, hey, you know what? We were looking for work. So we'll just, hey, that's our ship. We want that back, obviously, but we're looking for work. So we're happy to work for you.
Right.
Or do they just steal it back from him?
Do they kill him and his whole family?
Do they kill him and his whole family? Of course,
Right.
that's the end of what happened. But
Right.
those kind of things we don't know, but we at least have a conflict. The conflict is the ship is gone, right? It's a sandbox, sure. You can go anywhere you want, but we have a definite conflict. What do we do about the ship? We lost the ship. They could, for example, just decide, well, the ship was too much of a headache anyway. And they set up a taco stand.
Yeah.
But if that's the end of the conflict, then that's probably the end of the
Session.
campaign, right? Or the session.
Yeah, it's a great point. Sorry you're not feeling great, man. So yeah,
Excuse me.
No, it's okay. That's the way. Yeah, there is. Sometimes I see I see floating around the internet. This more applies to real life than role playing games, but I think it is funny to apply to role playing games, called main character syndrome.
Yeah.
Meaning everyone else exists around you as a secondary character in your story.
Right.
And I do know I have seen this idea like, okay, I'm here to be selfish for me, the role player. This story is about me, but we are at a table and something is happening that is cohesive for the group to participate in. And that doesn't mean we have to work together. That means we can have antagonism. That means we
Mhm.
can have PvP. That means there are no the GM is not going to save you. If you jump into the deep end, you will sink or you will swim. That's up to you. I'm not throwing you a life raft. You want to kill your character? Kill your character. If you want to make a taco stand, good luck, brother.
Yeah.
I'm going to probably spending more time with something that interests me because
Sure.
the GM isn't there just to serve you either, right? The
No,
GM has
no.
a stake in his own fun or her own fun, right?
And
So
that comes back down to the premise.
experience.
What kind of game are we playing here?
Right.
Is this going to be, is it like Halo? Is this like,
Right.
is it like Firefly? Is it Star Trek? Is it Star Wars? Is it
Sure.
something in between? Is this Buck Rogers?
And
What is it? What is it?
And Crispy, even within those constraints, military sci-fi. I'm a huge Battlestar Galactica reimagined fan.
Mhm.
So even in military science fiction, even though you are getting missions from on high, even though there are rules of engagement, even though we're saying, here is the situation down on the planet, it is very crucial that we do this in this time. Oh, and by the way, this particular planet is very important to the Imperium High Command. We can't go down there and level buildings. This is not a sweep and clear. This has to be
Absolutely.
precise. I like that because if you're putting the mission towards me that way, then I, as a player, thinking in the role playing context, I go, this is really cool. This is going to be a challenge to role play because there are limitations, and sometimes
Sure.
limitations make for better role playing moments.
Oh, I would go
As
so far as to say limitations are what make for better role-playing moments.
okay, I like it. I like it.
I actually think limitations are essential.
Yeah, they
Uh,
give you this rolls back to premise. I mean, it's the more and more you think about this, the more you realize you have to have a high trust table that sits down to have a premise, an operating premise that is sufficient for everybody. If I say I want to run a military science fiction game and this is what it looks like, and you go, that's not really my thing, I go, cool, I'll catch you on the next one then.
Yeah,
And
that's
give your
right.
seat to somebody. And there's no harm, no
Exactly.
foul,
There's no one
right?
gets upset.
Yeah.
You're not forcing something down people that are
Right.
unwilling to engage in that type of
Of
game.
course.
So spend your time prepping, like getting into that world.
Right.
Think of that world. So I am very much in favor of world building without the binder. I mean, you can have the
Yes.
binder if that's a sub game, a subset of the hobby that you enjoy doing. And I admit at times I'll just be, especially when it comes to games that I'm running, I'll be talking about, or I'll be going through and looking at artwork.
Oh,
I'll
it's
get
huge
my wife looks at me
inspire.
because the phone makes this funny sound when I save something on a Pinterest board, and she looks at me and she says, "What are you on Pinterest?" And I'm like, "Well, yeah."
She's
She
like,
said,
is
"What
that
are you
my
doing on
account?
Pinterest?" She's worried about
Yeah.
my masculinity or something. And so I'm what I'm doing is I'm looking at this art that I find evocative for the game that I'm running. And I'm
Yes.
thinking, "Oh, that's a cool picture." And I think that looks like a ship that would exist in this world, or I love this armor, or this dragon is cool, or this alien looks neat. And so I'm looking that for me is game prep.
Me
So
too.
what I'm doing is I'm trying to flesh out in my own mind, what does this world look like? And what does this look like in it? And
I'll tell
most of
you.
the time,
Yep.
those images just stay on that, they stay unused. They're all they are for me is just to get me thinking creatively, to get me into that headspace of this is what the world looks like,
Yep.
so that when the players do something completely unanticipated, I still know the world enough that I'll have it react in a believable way, or I have something that I can just pull out. Oh, well, we're going to go talk to this guy. Well, I've looked at enough character art images that I've got something I can use. That's
Right.
useful prep to me. Anyway, you were going to say.
No, I've prepped on a walk. Like I'll walk
Oh,
up on a
sure.
ridge line, I'll take a knee on this rock outcropping, and I look down in this valley and I'm like, man, if there was like 9 bowmen up here, I think in scenes. So like I'll think what a cool premise, just an opening moment of something. and then it inspires me to want to sit down and GM with people. Like, oh,
Well,
that'd be so cool.
prep that inspires you to play again
Right.
is good prep. So whatever that looks like to you, like I'm not going to say never build out encounters. If that to you it gets you excited to play again, sure. But beware of the scripting. You don't want your game to just be a series of cutscenes.
Yep.
You've already directed the cutscene, you've already filmed it. The players are just along. They have to hit the button to start the cutscene, and then that's it. And usually
it's not a film. You're not a director.
You're not a director.
Right.
Why they use that word in Draw Steel? It just
Why?
why call it a director? That is so. On the other hand, there is. I'll go so far as to give a few because I want to give. I'm known as this. I'm not so much a theory guy. I'm more of a practice guy. And here's some things that I think everyone can do for prep that is immediately beneficial. First thing, take notes after your session. So after your game session, sit down before you put everything away, write down notes. These are the people they met. This is the NPC I had to create on the spot. This is the location that I had to create on the spot.
Mm-hmm.
And then you have a chance when you're doing that, because it's still fresh in your head, you can then say this NPC has this secret also connected to this NPC that they've met 2 sessions ago, right? And this is the time. That's the time to do that prep. Write that down right after the session. It doesn't take very long. It's still fresh in your head. And I'm not talking about writing out a full journal of everything that happened, and then he rolled this, and boo, it was a crit, and we all screamed at the table like
you don't even
out of
have
control
to. It's
teenagers.
Recorded.
It's already like that. Exactly. Record
That's the
your
benefit
games.
of recording games, right there.
If you want to get better at things, record them and then watch them again.
Yeah, that helps. And then it also helps for any type of continuous prep you need to do session to session.
And then so you make those notes, take good notes because you want the world to make sense. Right. And if you're not lucky enough or you don't have players brave enough to be recorded and then put on for public consumption on the YouTubes, it's also really good to watch it over if you have that chance. Yeah. But if you don't have that, at least you have your notes from your previous session, and before the game starts for the next session, not during the session. If you do this during your session, I'm going to come to your house. Okay. What you're going to do is you're
going over the knee.
You're going to get a spanking. That's a paddling. If you bring out your notes during the session, before
people are going to just start taking notes. Maybe, I don't know.
Yeah. What you want to do is you want to go through those because you don't want to have situations where, oh, what was that again? Certainly the characters can have that. Players can have that.
Yep.
But you as the game master doing probably more prep than the players are doing, you have to be aware of what's going on in the world. And that's why those notes are really important. So tip 1, take very good notes after your session. And just bullet point whatever, but write down all the names, all the corporate names that you came up with, locations, all of that. Just make little notes on everything. And then is really important.
I like that idea, and I think it's very important. But I approach that a tiny bit different than you, and this is what's good about having 2 different guys on with stylistically. Mm-hmm. I have a run sheet of names already made.
Oh, totally.
Especially if it's like a particular culture and their names are a particular way, and I want verisimilitude here. They'll be like, they'll say to the player will say to the bartender, "What's your name?" And I just look down at the sheet and I go, "Devin McElroy," whatever. Oh, it's already written down. 100%. And then I just circle it, and I make a quick circle. That's the extent of my note taking in live time, but that's very important. I'll make names of groups. I remember I made names of a couple of free companies. I made a couple of names of this just so in casual conversation, people would be like, "Oh, did you hear the Black Blades of Varnius did X, Y, and Z?" I think that adds to the realism of a lived-in world that people feel like, "Oh, that's cool. I'm in a world. I can role play better." Right?
I completely agree. I think that's a great number 2. So number 2 is before your game starts. I like to use it's a website called Behind the Name, and they have a Behind the Name let's give you the website here. It's behindthename.com. Random. They have the best random name generator I've ever used, and I've tried lots of them. This one's the best because you can filter the random name by ethnicity. So like you can get right down to it. You can go to German, Georgian, Norwegian, Persian, Polish, whatever. You can go into ancient, Greek, Norse, Roman, Germanic, Celtic. You can do whimsical. You can do mythology. You can do fantasy. You can even choose Irish. And all of those,
I don't know why you would, but no.
I'm just saying you could. If you really, you can make it masculine, feminine. You can choose the number. Like what I always do is I say first name, 3 middle names, and then give me 5 of them. And then I have a ton of names that I can go through. And it's so useful to get that together. Never start a game without a list of names that you can just pull from.
Absolutely.
And all they need to be is like I would do a list of female names and a list of male names. And then from those, almost everything can come from that. Oh, you need a name for an inn? Oh, fine. Just take one of the names, right? Sure. Like it doesn't. You can.
And it's all based on your premise, right? If you're doing some kind of Traveler, Battlestar Galactica, or what have you, go okay. I'm going to get a half a dozen ship names. I'm going to half a dozen. I'm gonna just for fun. I'm gonna name 3 treaties. That's where I go. And then if something comes up, I think this is going to be almost a segue into people who don't prep at all. Where you feel the world is just empty and they're fumbling and they're stumbling. And somebody said something earlier, and I think it was Elf Hunter who said something about. Damn it, I can't find it. He said something about you should bring your own. The most important are players bringing their own toys to the sandbox.
Yeah. That's right there. It's 6:23 p.m. my time. So what is that? 9:23 for you?
Got it. Boom, right here. He says, "I'm 7 minutes behind. The most important thing for a sandbox for the players to bring their own toys." I think it's definitely a part of it.
So that's the other thing too, and I'm glad Elf Hunter brought this up because I think prep isn't just in the hands of the GM.
No.
Now I like to play with what I call aggressive role players. I was once kind of criticized, like only really aggressive role players could do this, and I'm like, challenge accepted. So now we're aggressive role players. I like to play with players that will spend a little bit of time in prep on their characters. And what does this look like? Well, let's just say back to the Traveler scenario. You're playing a xenobiologist. You probably want to have some sciencey sounding jargon at your fingertips. You don't have to know. You don't have to have a degree in biology. That's made up anyway. You don't want to have a degree in that. What you want to do is you want to just go and grab some of those terms. Just get the terminology.
Yeah,
Buddy Kingmaker did this.
He was so
good.
Keep going.
I was just going to say, like the Kingmaker did this. He's like,
shout out to Kingmaker
in science fiction. So he just went on like Chat GPT or something. Like, give me a bunch of science fiction sounding weapons,
jargon.
Jargon. I just want jargon. What I'm getting at though is, if you're a player, don't just expect that all of the prep is in the hands of the GM.
God, no.
You should
get out of my house. I don't want that.
Yeah, I don't either. That's to me is not aggressive enough. I want aggressive role players like Kingmaker here. Yeah, you're welcome, buddy. We're gonna play a character, and they're like, no. I want this character to make sense. So I'm gonna look up the terms. I don't have to become a high-speed operative. You're not going to be that guy. No. Although Kingmaker of all of us probably has the best shot of making.
You're not going to be DevGru in 2 weeks.
No, you're not. You're not. Okay, but you can watch a few YouTube videos. You could do you're like, okay, I kind of get the hang of it.
I'd like to get enfilade fire over here.
Right. Doing that, whatever. And
whatever.
You know what?
You'll figure it out.
I don't think that's cheesy. I think that's aggressive role playing. I love it.
Absolutely.
I don't think it's cringe at all. If you're using make-believe science words because you're playing a scientist in a game, good on you. You're
Have
winning.
you ever watched an episode of Star Trek? The words are bullshit. and it paints and it creates something. We got a coolant link. We got the phase conduit shifters are rotating at the wrong angle. What?
Yeah,
You're
exactly.
saying nothing, but I'm in it. I'm with you.
I'm with you,
right?
man. No, not the discombobulator. It's the flux
It's the phased
capacitor.
particle transceivers. Back, just yelling on the
Reverse
comms.
polarity. We're gonna
Right,
be dude. Okay, whatever.
It's great.
I still think that's great.
And then you take notes, like you said, after the fact, and you use it again to keep the world
Exactly.
consistent.
Exactly. Take notes.
Yes.
So back to prep 1. Take good notes. Prep 2.
Please.
Never start a game without, if you're the GM, without a list of names.
Right.
And
God,
or
please.
things that you like. I love the idea of ship names because I love funny long ship names like Ian Banks does. Or,
right.
Like I love those kind of, or Neil Asher, favorite science fiction author, just really good evocative names, personalities to the name. And I want a list of those to start. So that's number 2. Number 3, prep isn't just for the GM. So it's you as a player. If you're playing a barbarian, I mean, it doesn't. Just think, what is this barbarian going to be like? Does he have funny things that he does? Not comedic, but just out of the ordinary. Because he's a barbarian. You're not playing a guy delivering mail.
Let's wax on this a little bit. I feel as if making interesting characters could be its own video, but maybe we'll tease it, and maybe that is the secret hidden sauce of this, is that prep has to come from the character as well. Otherwise, you're spinning wheels.
Yeah.
And I think with characters, it's funny. I think when I see advice for backstory, I think everybody does it wrong. Pardon me for being so aggressive. Because people write these really long backstories and then they hand them to the GM expecting a star and a pat on the head when I just want to punch them in the face.
Well, that's because they want scripted.
Correct. And I know people go, well, if you involve your player's backstory, X, Y, and Z. And I say, well, look, if the player is very good, they'll involve their own backstory.
Yeah.
Number 1. Number 2, believe it or not, I like to write backstories, but I don't do it for the GM. I do it for me because I want to try to get into the headspace of my character. And nothing long. I'm talking a short paragraph. I want to know, who am I? Where am I come from? What matters to me? And that helps me get into the framework of my character, out of Dean into this guy. And how is he going to be different from me? How is he going to be the same to me? And a lot of that stuff you develop along the way. But in terms of preparation, I think knowing a little bit about where your character's from, what were they doing right before this? Why are they here? And a big one that you cannot fail to do is you have to have some freaking motivation.
Yes.
Why do you wear a sword?
Yeah.
Why don't you swing a hoe? Why are you here? Why aren't you working in a mill with your thick legs? Why are you freaking here? So that has to be answered.
You have to be able to answer those basic questions. I agree.
And lots of these questions, man, guys, don't take. One thing too is they'll take this and they'll apply to everything. This is the artistry of this world that we live in, is that it very much varies. If you're playing in Crispy's military science fiction game where you're being doled out missions, you might want something there, but that prep is different than a barbarian. That's going to be a different type of prep where you have to have different things ready to go. And same with the GM, knowing what's going on there. But I think that stuff is very important to maintain people's ability to be in character and to continuously ensure the sanctity of the verisimilitude of the world.
And I back to that verisimilitude, which I think is the main duty of the GM. So we're talking about prep, and we've just covered the point, which is players have a prep responsibility as well.
Yes.
And that is to be thinking, do whatever you need to try to make that character feel more real. So whatever depth you have to bring, that's important. That's on you. That's not on the players or the GM. Excuse me. That's on the players.
And real quick, Crispy, some guys can do that in one sentence. Some guys need 2 paragraphs because some guys just have that in them. They're good at that shit. We all know that.
my
right?
buddy Phil is fantastic at this with
Yeah,
NPCs. He just immediately has someone that's completely believable. I'm like, man, how do you do that? And he actually has a method that he uses. So, which
shout out to
you should
Phil.
have him on. Yeah, you should have him on. He's on holidays right now, but when you have him, I would recommend having a conversation with him because he's very good at creating NPCs that are believable on the fly, and that's because he has a way of creating that instant backstory motivation
Right.
that works very well for him. But what I was going to say is just playing off your verisimilitude of the world, which is the main job of the GM, maintaining a believable world, right?
Yes.
World has to be believable. So I'm like, oh, well, yeah, but Crispy, it's magic and there's elves and yeah, but it's still internally consistent.
Correct.
Like you can't, if the fictional world stops being internally consistent, then it stops becoming believable. And if it stops becoming believable, in other words, there are no limits. So you're in a world where there's no limits exist. We understand. I think we understand the world based more on limits than anything else. I have a limit. I can only run this fast. I have a limit. I can only jump this high.
Yes.
I have a limit. I can only fall this amount of distance before I'm dead. Right? Like there's limits. There's limits to much heat I can take, how much cold I can endure. All of those limits are really important. So your prep really is more about thinking about that world and making sure that the world isn't broken between one session to another. So, and that goes back to my first suggestion was take good notes, but make sure that you're not introducing things into the world that break the limits that are already established in the world.
Indeed.
And if you do that, there has to be some explanation why. Like it's you can't just suddenly say, well, ice is heavier than liquid water in this world. You can't just say that and then have it be believable. Like that would have changed so many other things.
Yeah, that's a common problem. It's funny. That's akin to people who remove parts of certain systems, not realizing they undermine the whole game system. It's the same shit when they are trying to mess around with the world. When you introduce elements, what you don't realize if we go back in time in this game, you're going to see how many times this breaks your world.
Yeah,
I see this in fiction constantly. I call this the transporter issue in Star Trek. Transporters. With the introduction of transporters in Star Trek, break many of the plots in that show.
Sure it does.
And oftentimes this is the case because as a show goes on and the technology starts to change because writers have different ideas, they've undermined everything that came before. We see this with prequels. We see this with everything. It's the same shit in role-playing games because we see that far too often, and that's why you do have to maintain internal consistency. I completely agree.
And that, I think there's an element that I'm alluding to. What I think I'm trying to say is when you're doing your prep, exercise restraint. Mm-hmm. So many of us in the hobby, myself included, we're kind of big ideas. Like, well, this would be awesome. And we think of some crazy idea. Well, maybe it is. And good on you for being creative. But before you just throw that in, because I'm like, oh, I had this crazy idea the other day. Try to test out, essentially run your idea through the world as it already exists and ask yourself, does this fit? Or am I really just thinking about something that'd be more appropriate for a different game that we just haven't played yet? Too often, when we spend so much time in prep, we start introducing things that we're like, well, wait, if that exists, then all this other things that we've done doesn't really make sense, right?
What's fascinating about you having this, you've had this conclusion. What's fascinating about you describing this conclusion, this is one of the reasons why I was a serial overprepper, because I had to try to see, okay, well, would this group, if this group has an army this big, how do they eat? How does that work? This world isn't, there's 10,000 guys, but it's only 4 towns. How do they eat? That doesn't make any sense. So I find myself My over prepping comes in world building more so than it does in scripting. I don't care. I was, and I'm not even saying I'm not yet. I'm not, I don't know if I'm convinced that this is true yet. So my over prepping when it came to world building and making sure I had internal world consistency, the reason I did it so much, Crispy, was because then I could just sit back and allow my players to bring their toys into my beautiful sandbox and let them run
Sure.
wild. And I knew I had internal consistency.
Hmm.
But it is a rabbit hole. When you're a rabbit hole chaser like me, I don't know if this is an ADH thing and I get hyper focused, it becomes a problem because then I'm like, okay, who was the fifth king? Like, hey, asshole. Nobody cares who the fifth king was, and you shouldn't either. It's just getting in the way of your prep, right? So it is it I agree that you should do that because I do it, but I will say that I have the 1,000-yard stare from doing that too much, which is like,
Yes.
no, man, I got way too deep. I'm
Yeah.
making like the pantheon that's irrelevant. It doesn't matter, right?
That's true.
Who does the
There,
cleric pray to and why and what does that look like? Why can't I just accept the fact that the cleric's going to say a prayer? Why do I need to know? So I challenge myself on that serial over prepping to need to know, right?
there again, it comes back to if you're enjoying that, and that is just,
Right.
it's essentially a game, or maybe not a game, doesn't meet the definitions for a game, but it's a part of the hobby that you enjoy, then
Yeah.
that's fine. But don't try to get too far. I suppose I would say don't try to get too far ahead of the players, because then you're doing things that may just be interesting to you, but are
Yes.
not a great use of your time, which could be dedicated more towards the moment that we're in. I think what I
And
was
at
trying to get
worst,
at,
and at worst, you'll push people towards your shit.
exactly, and you don't
You'll
want to
be
do
like,
that
I
again.
want you to see my sandcastles.
Avoid scripting. We're not
Yes,
scripting
yes.
here.
God,
And
please.
and the other thing is your prep isn't about trying to outdo yourself.
Right.
So when you're prepping, you're not trying to be like, oh wow, I'm gonna blow their socks off with this. No, then you're already moving towards scripting and less
Yep.
towards a believable world. Take
By
all
the
of that
way,
creative.
guilty.
Yeah, completely. I do
I've been
this all
like,
the time.
this is going to be awesome. I can't wait for them to see how awesome this is, and I'm
Max is gonna
excited
hate
about
this.
it. I
Max is
I
gonna hate this.
I know. I hear them because you do push people inadvertently into the shit you don't want them to be in. So you have to be able to.
Yeah,
That's why this is up. Gale guy, kill your darlings.
yes.
That's great writing advice. Your big, crazy, awesome idea. Maybe nobody gives a shit about it. So just back off of it. Maybe it'll
So
happen. Right?
exactly where this, I was guilty of this. I'm still guilty of this. This is why I shout out to Max.
What's up,
Um,
Max? Thanks for coming here, by the
in
way.
my campaign, so sometimes what we'll have is the world will push back, right? The player characters are doing things, and then something in the world happens, and we would call those pushes because it is the world providing a conflict.
Right.
And sometimes that conflict is provoked by players. Sometimes it's not. Sometimes it's just outside things that are happening in the world. And what was happening and what I had fallen into was in this campaign, I had overused that the world pushes, the world pushes, the world
Interesting.
pushes. And I was called out for it, thankfully, because I had players that were aggressive role players that are going to say, no, you know what? We need you to react to what we're doing. We don't need you to constantly be pushing us to react. So
Constantly, sure. Sometimes I'm okay with that.
I'm okay with exactly.
You
I'm
have
okay with
agency too,
pushes.
right? So
Exactly.
yeah,
And the world has to be believable. So there are going to be pushes that are in direct consequence of the actions of the characters.
absolutely.
That's fine. What I was getting into though was things outside of the actions of the characters themselves, where it's just a
Do you have an
plain
example, Crispy?
oh, far too many. So I would have situations. I'm just trying to think of one off the top of my
If
head
if
that would
if
be,
it's too much to think on the spot, we
no,
don't
no.
have to.
Here's one.
Yep.
Um, Character has a salvage yard.
Okay.
One of the player characters. Other player character shows up. He knows him. They're from the past. the salvage yard is taking a delivery of some salvage in this junkyard. And I, as a push, I just decide, oh yeah, this is the last salvage that he's getting to this salvage yard.
Ever?
Right? Maybe ever. Like this
Okay.
is it. Right. So that's a push, right? Like
that seems like a session 0 discussion, right?
right.
Yeah.
So that's me just saying, okay, I want you guys to be forced to do something. Business can't continue as usual, as it can't. Like
Okay.
the delivery guy says, hey, you know what? Tell Frankie, real sorry. Boss says this is the last shipment. Okay, that's a push.
Okay.
Because it's not in reaction to anything that the characters have done. It's just me trying to upset the status quo. Now, some
Okay.
of that is entirely fine and used with discretion and not overused, which is the real trick here,
Yep.
is fine. Because, hey, you know what? We're not playing a game about status quo.
Right.
Status quo is not exciting. Status
It's
quo
conflict or nothing.
is conflict. The game is about conflict.
Right.
The conflict that the characters find themselves in. But too much of that leads to a situation where the players always feel like their characters are just on their back foot. They're
Getting
always
kicked
just
around by the
oh,
GM.
this, oh man, like it's just
Absolutely. Yep.
coming, you know.
Yep. I agree.
Crap happens in piles, blah blah blah. But the issue is that if you do that, then you take away that that very rare quality in players, not amongst players that are aggressive, but players that are proactive, like that they're out seeking goals, which inevitably leads to conflict. They're out pursuing their ambitions.
If you are lucky enough to have players that have goals, that want to do things in the world that you have set up, and not just sit around and talk or smoke cigarettes or drink whiskey, then 100,000% they are going to get themselves into trouble.
They will. And Max says
they're going to get themselves into trouble.
In his comment, he's absolutely right. And that's what I'm getting at, is you don't want to prep scripts and you don't want to over prep pushes, because what you're going to do then is you're going to have passive players that are just waiting for the next shoe to drop, and they react to that. It's much, much more memorable when the player characters are providing that impetus to action, that call to an adventure is coming from the players themselves. And then your prep as the GM is, how do I react?
Mm-hmm.
And that's where you can have some nice, you can make your own tables. Take a what is that called? Take a note from the OSR and build your own tables, build some random tables. Okay, well, these are some things that could, if you need them, oftentimes you'll find you won't need them. And that's not because you've already scripted what's happening. It's because you understand the motivations of the antagonists, or just not even the antagonists, the other characters in the world, and what they're doing, the NPCs, or like I like to call them non-heroic characters, because they're
I dig it.
They're still characters.
This is a good segue into, we've talked about how GMs have to prepare for games, and we've talked about how players have to prepare for games, but it's very important that this is done together on some level, because I think GMs should know their players and know the players' characters. Because if you don't, I can prepare my world and I can prepare my non-heroic characters until the cows come home. If I don't know shit about these characters, I'm doing myself a disservice, and I'm kind of doing the players a disservice too. I want to know about the guy who runs the scrapyard. I want to know a little bit about that guy. I know he runs a scrapyard. Cool. Why? How did he fall into this? Tell me a little bit about that. Cool.
Well, yeah.
That's all. I'm not going to interrogate you for an hour and make you answer 45 questions, but I want to know, why do you own a scrapyard? What is it that Frankie likes about owning a scrapyard? What did he fall into it? Did it happen upon him? Did he get it? Did he win it at a Sobek table, for Christ's sakes? Like, so
that's a good point. And I think
yeah.
that can be also emergent. And
Right.
that comes back to my first point, which is your best prep as a game master is just taking good notes after the session. And
Agreed.
a lot of that can be emergent, because sometimes
It can be made up on the spot too. Yeah.
it's made up on the spot.
Yep. Absolutely.
And we didn't know, and the player didn't know until in the moment he's like, you know what, I think that makes sense, that my character is like this, and this is why. Or something monumental happens in the character's life in that session, which is going to inform their motivation going forward, or their biases going forward, or whatever it is going forward. And that because of that, you've got a note of that saying, oh, you know, Frankie seems to, you know, this was important to him, or this character had this happen this session. And you want to make just a brief note on that, saying this is something that happened. Because you're absolutely right. A game master should be given some thought in part of their prep as to what these characters' goals are. What are they doing? And
that's huge.
I think that's an important component of your prep. So really, that was the main thing I wanted to get across, Dean, is that I just am anti-scripting. So don't prepare scripts. If you feel like you're preparing something that's going to just be essentially a screenplay, or you're writing out the story arcs and the plot points, then I think you're heading in the wrong direction.
Right.
You're heading towards a scripted game. And a scripted game is just never going to be able to compete on the tapestry of your memory as a game where something spontaneous happened and something totally unexpected was the result. A story that we had no idea was going to be created was created afterwards when we looked back on what happened. Like, wow, that was cool.
And it's tremendously rewarding for the GM to not know and to be like, wow, that was completely unexpected. What an awesome experience for the GM at the table too.
It's
to be able
so
to be
much more interesting, isn't it? Like,
and yeah, I mean, you go in, I love the idea of, I kind of know the world and I know my non-heroics, my NPCs, etc. I don't know what horror would befall them because of these savage players. I'm looking forward to what's going to happen. I think that's very interesting. And I will say this, and this is very important because some people are going to watch this and we have to remember this. And I think this is something common that happens when I see advice videos. Players are not created equally, neither are GMs, neither are systems, and that's just the reality. So some people are going to have super passive players that don't know how to move forward. And what do you tell those GMs? Well, yeah, maybe you got to push on them a little more. Maybe you got to try to talk to them a little more to try to get them to come around, right?
Maybe, share with them the premise.
Absolutely.
And this is the premise. This is what we're starting with.
And that's huge, because getting back to the session zero, that's really where the prep begins. Well, not necessarily. You might have an idea in mind, which is why you've called you put the bat signal up. I have an idea for a game. Then you've got something already in your head. You have a premise, right? We see them all the time on Discord. Blah, 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 blah. People go, I'm into it. That GM already has a predetermined idea in their mind. It doesn't mean they're scripting. It doesn't mean they're railroading. It just means they have an idea of a place where they think they could have a really rewarding role-playing experience, and that's totally cool. And the level in which you want to get into that is really, it's completely up in the air based on the table. Going back to the example with the scrapyard owner, Frankie, you said his name was? That's Phil's character, right?
That's right.
So Frankie, maybe when at session zero, maybe Crispy says to him, why does he own a scrapyard? And Phil goes, I'm not sure. And we can go, cool, maybe that'll be an emergent fact that comes up. Or maybe he goes, I imagine him being in debt to a loan shark. You go, okay, cool. And then maybe that becomes a push on down the line.
It can,
whatever. So much of it is communicating that stuff up front too.
It is. And I don't think that prep is a bad word.
No.
I think that some types of prep can help. Um, some prep is really not going to take away your ability to improvise. Other
And
prep will.
yes.
If
Now,
your prep is granular to the point of they go through this area, then this area, then this area, and they have to go in this order, then you get into that whole, the quantum ogre, the quantum
sure.
room,
He's
quantum
behind
location.
any door you pick.
Doesn't matter. There's an illusion of choice from the
Right.
players, but they don't really have a choice because we can't trust the players to make the right choice. So we're everything is just kind of it's all just a shell game.
Right.
And the shell game then isn't interesting. It's boring. It's dull. And pretty soon you're going to have an aggressive role player at your table if you're lucky enough, and they're going to immediately tell. They will immediately know that this world isn't believable because no matter what I choose in the world,
There's the
the
ogre.
outcome's already predetermined.
Yep.
So prep does not have to be predetermined outcomes.
It shouldn't be.
It should not be.
No,
That's
it shouldn't be.
poor prep.
Yep.
You can prep in such a way as to facilitate the improvisation that happens in the moment. You can prep and feel like you're ready for the session and then be surprised. And that's an ideal thing that happens.
Sure.
But you're not surprised to the point of where you're not able to react to the players and what the characters are doing. You're just like, oh, that's interesting. Not, oh, so crap, I haven't prepped that area of the dungeon yet.
So I can't tell you the last time I sent players in a dungeon. I like overland movement. I don't remember the last time I sent players underground. It's probably been 20 years.
It's
on the predetermined outcome. What if you have let's take the players are on a space station, for example, or let's take I think Rick did this once where he's like, I'm going to destroy the ship they're on. That's a predetermined thing. Or this town that the players are in is going to be attacked by raiders. They're either going to be there or they're not. It depends on if they move on or if they don't. That's a common thing that happens, I think, at tables too. I think,
I think there's a place for it. Yeah. So, in other words, if in the premise of the game there's an invasion, okay, so could the player characters stop the invasion? Maybe.
Or
maybe it's very low. Like I ran a no prep challenge, which is not really no prep, but it's pretty close to no prep.
Sure.
And it was in ancient Greece, right? And I'm not an expert in the era, but I know the Persians have been encroaching, and there's a state of war that exists between the Persians and the Hellenic states.
The Hellenics,
right? Yeah. So I know that's happening. Now the player characters may be able to delay that.
They know it's happening too, presumably, right? They live in the world.
So there are things that are going to happen. The town invaded by barbarians.
Yep.
It could be that is going to happen. What I'm talking about where it's a script for the player characters, not that world events aren't happening. World events is your domain as the game master. World events should be happening, though, as we mentioned earlier, don't get ahead of yourself on scope. I was guilty of this in the campaign, the sci-fi campaign. There, the Max's character was having a session. It was just him and I, and Phil's character had died unexpectedly, suddenly, which
heart attack.
No, qualm, and taking a coffee table through his chest. So he was down and out for the count. And so we had this session. It was a very interesting session, and I hadn't done a session like this ever, where it was a time for the Max to have a session where he could mourn the passing of his brother, right? His womb brother, we used to joke, but so because they weren't biologically brothers, but they treated each other like brothers. So it's a monumental event in the character's life to lose his brother. He was very close,
of course.
So he has this session where he has to decide, where am I going next? What I'm going to do? And I've got the body of my brother, and I want to return him to his widow, and I've got to do all these things. And at the end of that session, the planet that he's just leaving the planet, and I announce that an invasion fleet comes in to orbit around the planet, right?
So
Okay, so be
you
careful
kind of
about this.
destroy his
It
whole.
kind of is like,
Yeah.
what was that necessary at this point? No, that's an example of being a little too eager, for me as a GM to push things. You know, there are definitely things happening in that world. There were things happening in the systems around. So I'm
So
not.
let me ask you this question in that situation. So suppose that doesn't happen, and suppose you step aside and you render the world as necessary for Max's character to go about the ritualistic process of
Mhm,
mourning for his brother and having some kind of funerary services for his brother, be it a pyre, be it a this or that.
mhm.
I I feel as if yes, that's cool. That's awesome for Max's character to do. It's very important to him culturally or maybe just individually. Regardless, it doesn't matter. It's important to him, the character. So in doing so, you probably give latitude and trust Max to know when he wants to break away from that endeavor, right?
Yeah, you have
Instead
to.
of
Yeah,
you have to trust the player.
you have to trust in a get example of what you can do in a high trust game that you can't do in other types of games. Like in a
Totally.
high trust game, you can see, okay, this isn't going to become just this do nothing waste of time session.
Right.
Something momentous will happen here. Trust the players to create the action for which you can react, right? Like there's
Yep.
and it wasn't that he wasn't doing that either. He was just chewing on his options for a moment.
Right.
And then in order to what I felt in the moment, which was incorrect, but what I felt in the moment was necessary, which is okay, now I'm forcing you to decide. It's here or elsewhere, or
Right.
you
And
you I'm going to force a decision on this.
and incorrect without getting too philosophical. So you say you were incorrect, and I think I want to point out it's an interesting word because you're incorrect insofar as that we would I think you and I would agree that the players are the most important part
Mhm.
the most important part of any game session.
Yeah.
And you're saying you're incorrect because you feel as if you stepped on his toes in that moment, in sense really this is about the player more than it is about the GM. Then
There
that
was
is
enough happening.
correct. That was incorrect.
It was incorrect
Right.
because there was enough happening already that the extra of this happening could have been handled without, sleek black warships suddenly
Sure.
appearing in orbit. Like
Now,
it was a bit of a what is that, tonal whiplash. Like it
yeah,
was okay,
absolutely.
it's not really the session we were playing. And though I had already by that time, because my prep is all thinking about the world and what's
Yeah.
happening here and why
That was going to be my
this.
question. To bring it back to prep, how are you? That was something that you had prepared. You
Yes,
just
so
weren't
that
sure
was
when you're going to
happening.
unleash it.
Exactly. So
Right.
it was something that was cooking in the background, and I just wasn't sure when to bring it about. I hadn't set a timeline on it. I knew it was happening. I knew this
Hmm.
was something that was, but it wasn't. It was, and the players never really engaged with anyone that would have made that clear that it was happening.
Sure.
It just, and so I was already thinking, okay, there's someone. This is not going to continue. This, especially since events that were happening on the world would have had ramifications for the home systems of those citizens that were killed
Right.
in those attacks. And so I'm like, okay, there's going to be there's a response coming, a larger response coming, but in the moment it felt too, the timing of it felt too capricious,
Right.
um, on my part.
It felt like if to make it to use a film to talk about it in film terms, it feels as if the director just has got to calm down. Like let's
Yeah,
let the
just
scene
calm down.
just
Yeah.
let the scene breathe. You don't have to pumpkin bomb the whole effing thing.
And that
So
goes back to prep too.
right,
If you spend too much time on your prep, then the tendency is to overuse all of
absolutely.
those great ideas that you had.
Yep, yep. It's a problem.
Here's
Yeah,
something that you can try. All everyone, I encourage doing this just as an attempt. I like to start each session writing out some secrets. Right. So here are some secrets that may or may not come into play. Like, so just from my notes from our last session, here's some secrets relating to those notes. The secrets that don't come up in natural play, again, reacting to proactive character actions, those secrets are erased. You do not use them.
Yep.
Just cross them out, make new ones for the next session. You again, using the notes from the previous session, what happens, looking at those NPCs, thinking up, what is the secret this NPC has? What's something that about this place that people don't know about? And then if it doesn't come up, just cross it out.
Yep.
Do something else.
Yeah.
Come up with something new. And
I like that a lot.
That the idea of having those and not recycling them, but coming up with new ones each time, then the advantage of that is that you're not tempted to go back to those ones that you didn't use because it never came up. So it never became relevant because the game is about the characters and what the characters are doing, right?
Right. Agreed.
So there was never any interface between what the characters are doing and that particular secret. So that secret, it just never came up. Cross it out, throw it away, get a new one. You're less tempted then to just go back to a scripted game. Well, this secret from 3 weeks ago, no, that doesn't exist anymore.
Yeah, that's important. That's an important part of that goes back to, it's very important to be able to let go of your darlings. You have to,
yeah,
because if you don't, you're going to be really in a pickle. But when it does come to prep, I will say, it's when you are. I think that's why, again, I harp on this a lot. It probably needs maybe a short video, maybe one of those 8-minute jobbers. But that's why I think character goals are important.
Sure.
A character needs to know what motivates them. And I know that, and it doesn't have to be this big giant thing, but it has to be, if we're playing a role play game, presumably, barring a UNPC where it's like a comedic kind of slapsticky, fun, random like type of session, presumably your players are going to be in a dangerous world. I don't know about you, Crispy, but I want to play in dangerous worlds. I don't want to play in mundane worlds. And if it's mundane, I want something to be weird about it. I want it to be Lovecraftian or something spooky or weird. And there's going to be conflict. And that conflict is probably going to come at the behest of the world reacting to the players or the NPCs reacting to the players. And then sometimes the NPCs are going to have, like we've already stated, their own goals, and they might run into other NPCs, and that conflict could spill into the characters. The characters might involve themselves in it or anything like that. But I like the idea of things are going to happen, whether or not the players want them to or not, because that's life.
Well, and that's a believable world, right? Because that's the world that you and I live in.
Right.
We only live in that world where things are constantly happening.
Right. And I want to make it clear that I think the best sessions are character driven. And I truly believe that. But at the end of the day, I don't think the GM exists to serve layups.
No.
I think the GM has to, and I'm not saying you have to be, you're not trying to win. That's ridiculous. Anybody who still is even discussing that is, they've not been playing long enough, as far as I can tell. You're not trying to win because you have all the tools at your disposal to destroy the player's characters.
Well, yeah, no, exactly.
It's just stupid.
Yeah.
But I want conflict. I guess that's my point. I want conflict.
Yeah.
I want to make, and that doesn't have to mean pew, pew, pew. I want to make a tough moral decision. I want to, God, do I close the bulkhead and let my fellow sailors drown? I mean, that, God, or do I risk losing the whole sub? Right. That's the stuff I'm into. I like those types of situations.
Absolutely. Big moral decisions.
And you'll spot them with enough experience. You'll go, ooh, here's a spot I can put the player in. Call it a push, call it a whatever. That doesn't necessarily invalidate the player's agency. In fact, it might.
And a lot of the pushes, if you're paying attention to the world and you're really giving it it's an honest effort, then the pushes are natural. The players are flying at multiple Mach through airspace that's controlled. They're getting a call from the airspace controller. That's going to happen.
Yes.
That's not ever not going to happen.
Every time.
The players are doing something. they're galloping through the countryside. It's gonna be noticed.
Yes.
Someone's gonna notice that. And now your job is, how does the world react to those players?
Right.
What is believable about that? That's prep. That
Prep
is useful.
Absolutely. Like a good example, World of Darkness game, player characters are vampires. One vampire gets a little too cute with a cop. The cop ends up dead. Now, leading into this, I'm like, okay, you guys know I like pretty gritty. I like pretty lethal. I like pretty realistic. I like the verisimilitude of the world. If you kill cops, let me tell you about the reaction that's going to happen.
Yeah.
Oh, and on top of that, you killed a cop who falls into the domain of a vampire more powerful than you, and he's going to be pretty pissed that you killed a civilian on his turf. So now you got the mortal police running your ass till the sun comes up, and you got this guy going, this guy needs to be brought in. He owes me. I'm going to kill 3 of his ghouls for payment. So that's important. I love that shit. And that's, my players were always a little nervous. Like, we could die in Dean's game because he's trying to make it realistic. And I'm not trying to kill you, but I'm telling you, if you kill cops in this world that I've prepared, you're going to have a real problem.
I had an absolutely wonderful experience playing the only time I've ever played a vampire game.
Great game.
Space Roadie.
Yeah, he was great.
Is Blood Junkies for us.
Great book, by the way.
Absolutely top notch. And he gave us in session 0, he says, okay, here's the rules, right? Here's the rules for Las Vegas for the, what are they called? Kindred?
Yep.
So this is the rules, right? And the sergeant, or whatever he's called, the sheriff.
You got it.
He's going to enforce these. And when the sheriff enforces things,
Vampiric really sheriff, by the way.
Yeah.
He's keeping the kindred in line.
Hands off tourists, hands off.
Yep.
What was a few others? Don't be on the strip.
Don't kill each other.
Stay away from the strip. And of course, then the normal vampire rules: do not bring attention to the vampire. Like, humans know we exist, but you're not to.
Yep.
You're not to. Flaunt things over. Anyway. One of my I don't know what they call the junkies that I have in my thrall, I guess is I don't know who it is, whatever it is, gets himself arrested.
Probably one of your retainers there.
Yeah, like one of my guys gets himself arrested. Well, the sheriff I have to go to the sheriff, hat in hand, and be like, okay, this is what happened. And the whole time I'm thinking the world's gonna react to what's happened here. And Space Roadie did not disappoint at all. Did you have
to
absolutely? Oh, the sheriff himself is just
obliterates the
guy. And I was so impressed with it.
Yeah,
I was so impressed that that there was a consequence, because I'm all basing I'm trying to enter into the fiction of this world based on what I know about Las Vegas, which is admittedly fairly little. But I've been informed a little bit. Yeah, I've seen. So a
lot of holes in that desert.
I'm like, so tell me about the city of Las Vegas. This was the session 0, right? My questions were all, and I think we have this posted. I don't know if we did.
You do.
My questions were, what's Las Vegas like? Tell me about not just the strip. Like, what is it like? What are the people like? What is the what's the relationship between the tourists and the locals and the different ethnic groups, and what is it like? What's the reputation of the Las Vegas PD? Like, how about the other emergencies? What are the hospitals like? How often? Like, so I'm trying to get all this because I'm trying to put myself there. And he did a great job of explaining that. Yep. And then more than that, he said, and you're a vampire, and that's what this means. That's excellent prep. His prep was fantastic. He knew enough about our characters. I already told him I'm going to be playing this vampire that loves what are they called? Anyway, I was the guy that loved the finer things in life.
Toreador.
Yes, Toreador. So I'm playing the Toreador guy, and I'm just a junkie for this
singer.
And
I remember that was really cool.
I was like, I'm going to be a vampire horn player. Like, I want to be a celebrity, like almost celebrity status horn player. Like, I can just show up at a club and I break out my horn and I can just play. And it's like, I was like, that's what I want to be. And so he had already thought he had his prep was because he already knew I was going to do this, right? I had kind of telegraphed this because you have to have what's called a touchstone.
Yes, somebody important to you that's living.
Oh, first time I played with Kingmaker in that game. It was absolutely fantastic experience. It was so exciting. Anyway, so I had to have a touchstone. He already knew my touchstone was, so he had prepped things about her, and it was just fantastic. It was such a high point for me, and it was so surprising because I'd never played a vampire game ever, nor did I think I ever would.
It's good. It can be very good. It can be very bad.
So good. It was so good. I was so happy for.
He gets it, by the way. He's old school. Like he's a space. Shout out to space because he's like a Masquerade like volume 1, like edition 1 player. He goes back to 1991, whenever the hell that came out.
Oh yeah,
so
he's great.
He gets the vibe of that game very, very.
It was
much.
So good, and I was worried because I was like, "Oh, is it just going to be like the sex stuff?" But
a lot of times it's just us. A lot of times it devolves into them just obliterating mortals with no consequences. Which boring as hell.
But we didn't. I didn't feel like there was. So there was. There was just that sweet spot, that Goldilocks zone of prep.
Sure.
Where
that involved
the world
you.
was believable. It involved exactly.
That's huge.
Involved the players too. So the prep wasn't just all on one side.
Correct.
There was enough background for us to understand the world in which we inhabited, this fictional world of Las Vegas with vampires. But at no point did I feel like the game was scripted. Everything that happened was a reaction to what we were doing. So it was there was nothing scripted, but some things had happened in the game, had clear consequences that he already had figured out.
Yep.
And okay, consequence of getting arrested as a vampire or going into custody or that kind of stuff. Yeah, you're just going to disappear. Like,
yeah, and that's that game in question, and I promise we'll get. I won't go too far off topic here, but the beauty of that game, when done well, is just the ability to survive every night by trying to get blood, and you cannot be in the sunlight. That writes itself.
It does
when it comes to prep, because it's like the amount of shit that can go wrong. It's just endless.
So true.
And it's going to be, and it will be capitalized on.
Yeah.
There's been a lot of comments that I've not been great at highlighting, so I feel like I should highlight a few as we go. Are there any that are hopping out to you?
Oh, there's a number of them.
So many. I guess I'll start with Gal Guy was saying,
sure.
We see this problem rise in video games, procedural generation. Randomizing every outcome can create 10,000 bowls of oatmeal where everything is unique but nothing is interesting.
That's true. I agree with that.
Absolutely true.
Yeah.
He continues, forwarding your villain's agendas in the background is fun because it's more role playing.
Yeah, basically it's part of it's an important part of the game, and it's so often forgotten. It's just, well, if you do this once, then it's not as interesting. If you do this after every time, as I mentioned in our conversation, when you look at the notes from the session and you ask yourself, does the main villain, the nemesis, the antagonist, or the group of people the characters are working against, are they aware of this change of status? Has anything changed? If they are aware, what are they doing about it? If they're not aware, then how fast can they advance their agenda? They're going after something always.
Sure.
And if nothing is done about it, they're going to get it. Right. And what happens when they get it? Well, then they're going to go to the next thing they want, right? It's not so.
Yeah, if you think of it almost like because I've run a lot of Lovecraftian culty games, a lot of times it's, okay, phase 1 of their giant ritual is complete, brother. Yeah. Phase 2, you're not going to be able to ignore. If you want it, if sure. That's the game you've agreed upon. I should go without saying at this point. I don't need to make disclaimers every time. Elf asks, what system would you GM play Battlestar with? That's a great question. I actually ran a Battlestar game once about an occupied planet, and I thought it was really cool. It had very much like a French Resistance vibe. And to be honest with you, I used World of Chronicles of Darkness. That used to be my generic system because I liked the D10 success system and I liked the speedy and brutal combat resolution. Nowadays, I don't know. Maybe I would try Traveler. I'm not sure. But I used to use, when I started to be sick of Dungeons and Dragons, I used World of Darkness for that too. I just was like, this is essentially like Vampire Dark Ages, except no vampires, just mortals. And
Mhm.
we're in England and it's 936 AD
Mhm.
or something like that. Adam says making a list of names will get your creative. Yeah, I agree. Yeah, you get your creative juices flowing when you're moving like that. Good stuff out of Bleaknick, who says if you expect the world to be believable, why wouldn't you expect the character to be? For sure.
Exactly. Exactly.
Yep. I know Max has said a lot, and since we've talked about him a lot, I want to get to some of his commentary as well. Non-GM players should also be invested in the game. God, yes. Exactly. I think that's really important because sometimes, and this isn't necessarily true all of the time, but sometimes when I observe heavy role play sessions that are largely player dominated, I do ask myself, are they aware that they're playing a role playing game? Because there seems to be a lot of meandering, right? So non-GM players, meaning the player characters, should be invested in the game, and the players at the table should be on some level, right? I mean, we all have limited time, right? Am I making sense there?
Yeah, I think so.
And that is through their characters. She continues. Yep. Come up with an answer on the spot. It might not be the best answer possible, but it's going to be good enough.
It will. Yeah,
I
it
agree.
will.
Yeah, this gets to rule books. I do think part of your prep should be knowing the rules of the game. I
Yeah.
also think part of your prep should be knowing some of the capabilities of the players in the game, but not really. That's definitely on them. They
It's on
have to
them.
know. They have to know what the hell they're doing.
You as a GM have to know enough about those abilities so that if it calls for
It
an
doesn't break your
adjudication,
game.
or if you are expected to set the difficulty class in the world for that
100%.
ability, you have to understand what is the game system informing on the probability of success for this. Is something that should be used all the time, or is it an edge case? That's going to
Right.
require you to know those worlds, or those
Agreed.
things. Yeah. That's funny. I don't know where D went. He's going to be back in a sec, but I just saw Bacon's comment. GM can handle all the rules. I ain't read nothing. So good.
Good one.
All right.
What happened?
There he's back.
Oh my God. You know why? I think one of the buttons on this mouse, because it's a gaming mouse, is like the back
Too many
button.
buttons.
And I think I hit it and went backwards. Nice
My
one.
mouse is like that too.
What an absolute professional. Bleaknick, too many pushes sounds like the same conflicts as too many plots.
It is.
That's interesting because I wonder if sometimes by doing a push, you make the players feel compelled like they have to take it. But
Well, that's just it.
Right.
It's
like you're forcing them down a plot line, maybe?
It feels that way from the player's perspective. They feel like, oh, you're still pushing me. I guess I haven't made the right decision, right? Oh, I'm still getting pushed a certain direction. I guess I haven't we haven't chosen the right path yet. And so we're going to keep getting pushed.
Right. I'll tell you, and again, this is no disrespect to Tom because he's running a different world, but that's how I very much felt in Draw Steel. I didn't feel like I had enough time. I feel like I was being pushed entirely because I didn't feel like I had enough time between things to sit and role play.
That's true. As an introduction to the system itself, it was one set piece followed by another set piece followed by another third set piece. And I guess that middle set piece was two set pieces. It was the montage plus the negotiation.
Sure.
And then a final combat. So,
and when you say set piece, you're kind of using it literally as it's used in Hollywood. Like, here's the big giant throne room scene.
It is.
Here's the big giant.
This is prep that involves getting the encounter map ready. Okay. One of the problems I have with spending all that time getting the encounter map ready is that you're going to feel really robbed. I remember this once. It really stuck with me. I spent an inordinate amount of time hand drawing out this big combat mat for my in-person game. And it was pretty impressive. Or people will have 3D terrain. I didn't have 3D terrain, but I had color. I had all this stuff. It was all hand drawn, everything. I made measuring. I had a huge roll of paper that I had ordered. And so I had done this and colored it and did all this other stuff. It was just crazy. And one of the players looked at that and said, well, we're definitely not going anywhere near that. And I just felt like that is so, but to me, the reason it stuck with me, and I don't hold it against the player, because I think it was kind of a in jest. And then everyone was like, oh, no. Well, don't worry. Don't worry, Crispy. We'll go there for sure. We know we spent all that. It probably took you an hour and a half to do all that. We'll make sure that we go there. And I'm like, oh, it's disappointing to me now. Like, that was the last time that I ever had a map visible when players arrived.
Right.
From then on, I revealed the map.
Sneaky maps.
And then, but then the problem with that is you reveal the map and everyone's like, okay, good. We're on the right track, because we knew we had an encounter. We're going to have an encounter here.
Excellent. That's good stuff. I can't tell you. I mean, I've already had the minis ready to go.
Yeah.
I'm like, well, what if they don't fight the 6 beastmen?
Yeah. What if they decide not to go there? What if they have a different solution for that encounter? Like,
I probably could have spent my time better reading a novel, getting descriptive words, not saying the same thing over and over again when I do.
Thinking about what the beastmen want.
Yeah,
like, what are the beastmen after? Like, what are they going to, if they're not encountering the party, what else? What other mischief are they getting up into? And like,
this is not a beastman. Clearly, it's a can of soda. It's a can of soda water. But that's the point. When you start looking at miniatures, I feel as if they stop becoming living, breathing things, and they become tactical representations on a mat.
Yeah,
and I just can't get past it. It's if I want to play Warhammer, I'll play Warhammer. Max says your players can upset the status quo themselves. They can, both can. Everybody can. We're all in it. We're all responsible for this thing that's happening at the table. Bleak says letting PCs be proactive is their opportunity to express their characters in a completely separate dimension. Agreed. What else do we got here? The GM should be there to play a game as well, not just facilitate a game for the players. Amen, brother. Being surprised and flying by the seat of your pants is part of the game. Yep.
Sure it is.
Sure is.
And I don't think that is that position, which I agree with, is exclusionary of having some time as the GM preparing for the game. Yeah. Like, the fact that you will be improvising is a given.
Right.
And it's not something to shy away from. And there's good ways to practice that. The practice to be able to improvise is part of your prep as a GM.
Right. Agreed. I'm being told that I'm a good candidate for the Office game. I don't know what he's talking about, but
Dean is not a candidate for the Office game. The Office game is
not a candidate.
I think it's alluding to that kind of slice of life. Nothing like the conflict really isn't much conflict.
Oh, like we just hang out and we do like TPS reports and stuff.
Yeah, safety meetings.
Yeah, no, I don't think that's necessarily my style, unfortunately. And I mean, but to each his own, man. I hope it's a blast for y'all. I got marked off the Secret Santa. In Chud World, nothing ever happened, says Max. I will challenge. Bleaknick says, I will challenge that other comment. Show me the NPC without conflict. I'm sure it's happened, but I haven't seen it. Yeah, fair enough.
We did do one, and I think Max mentions it. We did do a slice of life. It was an interesting experiment. I feel like there was some conflict, but the conflict was very mundane, right? It was just going through the things, hating your boss.
Yeah.
Getting written up for this. And, it was just what it felt like to me as a slice of life was it felt like the prelude to right before the space station explodes, or right before something happens. Like, to me, it was like just all character intro stuff, which is not a bad thing. But for me, in order to retain my limited attention span, right, I would have to have raiders attack or something happen. Some major thing happen.
Why are those men getting out of a van with AK-47s?
Yeah, that's right. Exactly.
It's Hans Gruber.
Exactly.
Hey, Nakatomi started that way, right?
Yeah, that's right.
Just a regular guy trying to have Christmas with his wife.
Exactly.
Now, Die Hard is a different movie if Hans never shows up.
That's true.
It's not my favorite movie, but if you're into it, go for it.
Yeah.
Kingmaker commenting on he liked that vampire game. He was
Oh,
good in that game. He played a gangrel, I remember.
yeah, he was visceral. It was good.
Better with Bacon reminds us that the GM can handle rules he ain't reading shit.
I love it. I love it. I love it, Bacon.
Nicholas is accusing you of hijacking a stream.
Yeah, that was right. When you gave me nothing but the floor. I mean, man, it's
good
peak
stuff.
egotism.
Raiders attacked the diner. So we've talked a lot about prep. I don't want to keep you for more than 2 hours because you're not feeling great, obviously.
Yeah, sorry about that. I was apologize for the coughing.
We didn't talk a lot about the trappings of under prep, and I think by contrast, I think we can see what they look like without doing another hour and 49 minutes.
Yeah,
but I think I've been in games like that, and they are brutal.
Yeah. So under prep is also detrimental in different ways. Where over prep can create a world of such fidelity that it feels just scripted and everything is scripted. Under prep can devolve into
it's empty
or unbelievable, like
completely.
Or
what it is for me is every single NPC sounds exactly the same. I don't know what any of them look like.
Everything is derivative of
everything's derivative
before.
Yep.
Everyone's named Bob,
There's
Larry.
No personality for anybody I encounter.
There's no NPCs have any motivation.
And there's no detail. I don't know. You're in so you enter the town. Awesome. That's super exciting. Cool. And I know some people, and I know some 4Ders will say like, well, I'll imagine the town. Well, that's cool, but that's not me. So there is a lot of the stuff that comes down to taste. I want my GM to present to me a living world that I can then get into character in. I don't want to have to do. That's the point of the collaboration, the co-creation. Is I want to let's do this together. Oh, cool! And now let me interact with that, and let that inform me and help me. Right? This is like I was saying, like this is the difference between a table read and a dress rehearsal. Right.
Sure.
I want a living, breathing world to be
to
run around in.
I certainly do appreciate some things that come along with prep. Sure. I really do like having a few artifacts on hand, some images to show, just to help visualize.
Tools. Yeah,
I like that a lot. I do really enjoy having something that happened before have influence in the world now, even if that influence is limited to the scope of the characters themselves. I still feel like that's very interesting. That shows a character development, things that happen over time in a persistent world. Whereas if you're not doing any prep at all, then I'm not sure that motivations, can you hold it on your head? Maybe you can. Most likely no. By the 4th or 5th session, everyone's kind of like, man, I don't know what's going on. Everything's just kind of random anyway. It also, if you the other risk that I think you run if you never prep for anything, and I'm not, just to speak to Nicholas's comment, I'm not really criticizing the ultimate no prep challenge, because I see that as
that's a completely different exercise,
a different animal, more of a. I feel like that's just an excellent practice to think quickly in a pickup game.
It definitely develops your improvisational skills, I would imagine.
So I see that as an interesting and effective practice tool. And what I worry about though is the no prep. Either things are just always so random and everyone's like, well, just roll on the D100 table for everything.
Right.
And okay, so everything's just random, or
if everything's random, then the world lacks verisimilitude to me.
It can, right?
And it can. Well, not always, not as a rule, but generally speaking.
And I think that some of the OSR guys are really big on, everything is generated at the moment when it's needed. And I think that's okay. Their prep is really beforehand to make sure that the generators they're using are are believable in the context of the world they're playing. So I think that can work.
Yeah, that's fair.
What I fear is the different thing, and maybe negative prep is a good term for it, Nick, where you're displaying to the players as the GM, and the GM and the players displaying to the GM for their part that they are not going to take the time seriously, that they're not
100%.
going to devote any effort. I think even
That's
a little
what I
bit of
see.
prep goes a long way in showing, hey guys, I want this to be a good experience, not because I'm your servant, because I'm not, but because I want a good experience.
Of course.
So,
Yeah.
and they're in there for their part, they're doing the same thing. They want a good experience, so they're going to put the effort in to come up with the terms that maybe are nonsense, but they sound good in the moment. They're going to get that ready. Or like, for example, if I could, and this is going to sound incredibly self-congratulatory, but I played a bard recently in Mike's game, and my prep to play a bard was I went and generated using a generator I have in one of my books a bunch of silly insults, and then I had those insults to use for my
ready to go.
character, and I made a bunch of them so I could just randomize them.
Did you put
And
them like music theory related insults?
no, they were just totally nonsense stuff.
Okay.
It was great, and I mean that was kind of the extent of my prep to play a
Right.
bard. And then I was thinking a lot about the bard. I think the character's name was Chaucer from A Knight's Tale, and I was like, I want to play that guy as a bard. Like, so I'm always announcing the knight,
Right.
you know,
Like a herald.
exactly.
Right.
So and so I think that hopefully showed to Mike that I really appreciated him spending the time to get this together, to think about the game. So
Yeah. Yeah. And I think it's very important to distinguish between an exercise in style, which is the UNPC that these guys do a lot of and they're proud of, and they should be, because that's not easy to do, by the way.
it's not, and it's good.
It's out of my wheelhouse for sure. But also because UNPC, that paradigm is established. That's not the same as a more traditional approach to game sessions where somebody is exactly as you're describing, completely lazy about it.
Yeah, I don't like
and
laziness.
They couldn't be bothered. They don't. So I'll explain. I said this on a stream I did with Zonalar some time ago. I said, I'm very nervous when somebody comes up to me and says, I have a game. Do you want to play in my game that I have ready? And I go, oh, cool. I have we've said it. I've said it 100 times when I was 15. I have a game. Do you guys want to play in my game? Well, I had this happen to me recently where somebody's like, oh, I got a D&D game. Do you want to be in it? And I go, oh, yeah, cool. I have some ideas for a character. And that person was more interested in my class and what I was going to play than they were in my. I go, well, can I tell you a little bit about my character? And he's like, it doesn't really matter. I was like, got it. And then when we sat down to play, I was expecting this big, interesting, if railroaded experience, and that didn't happen either. I'm like, you lazy son of a bitch!
It's nothing.
You didn't care about my character. You didn't prep this game because it's all just like and then stumbling for words, reaching for names. This barkeep is the same as that barkeep is the same as this barkeep. Why the hell do we keep going to goddamn bars? And then it was very difficult. It was very hard to be in that game. I was like, I won out, and then I eventually got out.
Exactly. Some prep is not so much that it's going to be player character facing or player facing.
Mm-hmm.
It's really just it's more for you. Get yourself in the headspace, but also just to show your buddies, look, I'm looking for this to be a good experience. I want to have a good experience.
Yes.
I want you to have a good experience. We're gonna play this way, right? So decide what that is, commit to it, and then if you really do love the world building, then that's fine. You do bananas. That. Go bananas on it, but don't script. Mm-hmm. Do not script your games. It's a terrible
That's
vice.
the takeaway tonight, guys. You cannot script your goddamn games. You gotta It is bad prep. If your goal is in character immersion, where the emerging story comes at the behest of player action as they interact with the world you're rendering before them, then you should avoid scripting at all costs.
Yeah.
That doesn't mean that you can't have NPCs run into the characters and run afoul of them. That means that the characters should have goals, preferably ones that they will impress upon the world and the world will push back on, to create said conflict that is in fact interesting. And by the love of all that is holy, please, and this maybe should go without saying, but I guess it doesn't. If you're mature enough to say what Crispy just said, hey guys, I want to really have a really good experience. Here's my style. Here's what I'm into. I have a premise I'm thinking about. I'm thinking it would be really cool if you guys had to board a derelict spacecraft or a derelict space station because they've stopped communicating for the last 17 days. So you need to go out there and figure out what's going on. Does that interest you? It's going to have a bit of a military feel. Does that interest you? And some people are going to go, it doesn't. And they're going to go, cool, I'm going to go play this other game. And that's totally cool. It's so much of this. Session 0, the older I've gotten, Crispy, the more I've done this, it's become the most important part of sitting down to have a session that people are going to enjoy together as a group.
Yeah. Yeah. Communicate it out. Like, if you say what you want, everyone says what they want. Find the game that you want. Hopefully there's food, at least.
Yeah. If it's going to be a shit game, Nicholas, I demand a delicacy.
Come on.
Yes.
But no, I mean, not everything's going to be for you. And, but that said, if you're going, I do think it's a good idea for people to try new things. Like I tried a vampire game. I am so glad that I tried that vampire game. I never in my wildest dreams, I never thought I would be a vampire player. I just wasn't, would never interest me at all.
Yeah.
And it's a highlight game for me. It's just an absolute fantastic game. Because of the prep that went into it, both from my end and especially from Space Roadie's end. But that goes for most of the games I've been in. I really appreciate I played in a horror game that Phil ran, The Harvest, and I thought his premise was fantastic. I was really excited about it, and we only knew the thinnest veneer of that premise. We didn't really get into it, but it was great. I appreciate when I see GMs do effective prep. Like it shows that they care about it. They're thinking about it. They're thinking about the world.
Yeah.
But I also appreciate when GMs haven't prepped so much that they're so worried that a player is going to have their character upset the perfect set piece, the perfect, what are those called when, that closing shot where the camera it's just on that last montage. It's a special term. You probably know it. It's that, like
the establishing shots, or
no, it's like the ending shot, right? Like we have that last shot that anyway, they don't want, I don't want to be in a world where
closing shot, maybe.
It's so determined, that it's like you're upsetting anything. Everything is in its place and you're just along for the ride. And every so often I'll tell you to roll a dice. Usually it's going to be an arcana check or an investigate or a history check or a knowledge check. And that's just so that I can go on for another 15 minutes and tell you about the next chapter of the book that I'm writing.
Absolutely.
That's bad prep, folks. Don't do that.
It's also there's a reason GM burnout is discussed, and this is why right here. Over prep. I think the camera lens, let's say the world is in focus, I think the camera should punch down at lightning speed right to the players instead of starting on the players and punching way out to the world. The players matter. The characters matter.
So true.
Put the camera right on them if you want to think in those terms. That they're who matter.
Oh, Dean,
And
a great example of this,
yeah,
and
go
or
for it.
how of what not to do. I started watching this episode 1 of Critical Role, the latest season, whatever it is, 4, I think.
Is that the one where
It's the one they just did. Like this is
the new
brand
guy's DMing it? I don't
new
know the
guy doing it.
names.
Well, he's not. I don't think he's a new guy, but whatever he is,
But he's not
Mulligan.
Mercer.
He's not Mercer. Mercer's a player now, and
Oof.
I'm trying to watch this thing, and now it's available for me to watch. It was behind a paywall for the last
Is
week,
this a
so I couldn't do
UA
it.
experiment?
Yeah, I'm going to
coming?
do a UA on this,
I'll
and
be there. Well, on
and
the
I
chat.
just can't believe how much the game is just the GM telling the players this beautiful story that he's written.
Good God.
And that's really all it is. And it's
I'll just read Joe
awful.
Abercrombie. I'm all set.
And it'd be better. It'd be better.
Oh, God, yes.
Read some David Gemmell
Sure.
and be happy about it. Like you probably got more out of the experience. Like it's not read some Steven Erickson. If you want a big scoping epic story, why are they like, and millions of people watching this, and I'm watching this thinking, this is textbook overprep, textbook. This is awful.
Yeah.
Anyway, I'll have a lot to say about it.
I'm sure
in a
you
few
will.
in a few days.
I'm sure you will. A couple comments before we get out of here. Bacon says, Vampire's excellent. I love that game. I need to get some blood junkies in. Yep.
You do. It's so good.
Nicholas
So good.
piggybacking here. And do not make the world the star instead of the players. 100%.
Yes. Yes.
It's so cringe. RPG as an excuse for telling your friends a story is cringe.
It is. It's awful.
Yep.
It's more cringe than bad voices. It's way more cringe than that. It's more cringe than painting your fingernails.
Wow. Powerful,
Not saying something.
Powerful statement.
It's more cringe than
I just do
dressing up.
I just
for
do
your
my
game.
toes, you know?
Yeah. I mean, toes, I guess that's cool. Unless your daughter's doing it, man, why are you doing that? Stop doing that. If your daughter does it to you, that's fine. That's cool. We can be friends.
I know
The rest
the
of you,
GM you're talking about.
Stop doing that.
I've
Why are
seen
you
it.
doing
I've seen the GM in question that you're referring to.
Please stop doing that.
Who happens to now be a player. Well, this has been a ton of fun, my good man. I think this is a good stopping point. I think we covered lots of stuff. We talked a lot.
Yeah.
Hopefully our perspective is nary a bit interesting.
Well, it's
to people.
objectively correct. So hopefully a few people
That's
will.
true. That's true. In our paradigm, anyway.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
In our paradigm, it sure is.
Well, I think we've done our job. I hope, which is give you some prep ideas that are actually useful.
Yep.
And just a real quick recap, if you don't mind. Number
Please do.
one, make good notes. That's some of the best prep you'll ever do is make a good note after the game, right after the game, before you go to bed, while it's still fresh.
Although I will say this, Crispy, that is counterintuitive because the game's already happened.
I know, but I
Right.
gotta
But
say,
I get what you're saying.
I know.
And I think you're right.
Do it after session 0. Like that's
100% true.
Right?
And by the
So
way, don't not do a session 0.
And session 0 is not about the weird guy in the back that's going to have some kind of strange fetish that we got to rein in. Session 0 is about establishing the premise, establishing the what the world is like,
yes.
right? Building the world together. And then
are you guys in?
Yeah, and
that's
and
the question that needs to be answered. Is this what we want to do?
Great prep. And then so you add that, then my first step, tip 1, still applies. Make sure that you make good notes after that session 0, after the first session, all the sessions. Make good notes, and you're making notes primarily about what has happened, but about the world and how the world's reacting and who in the world and where in the world. You're making those notes. The other prep, never start a game session without a list of names.
Absolutely.
Always have
not
names.
Just people names.
Not just people names, places
names,
names, castle names,
ship names.
Absolutely. I'm gonna have a little addendum to that tip 2, which is start each session with a few secrets, and then don't recycle those secrets. So a few lists here. List of names,
NPC agendas
and their motivations and their secrets, right? Yep. Do that. Tip 3. If you're the GM, you're not the only one that's expected to do some prep. Players should do some prep of their own. Make
And,
sure if you're playing a character that is a certain type, that you know a few things about what makes the character think, what's the
yes.
motivation. Spend a little time. Don't
And you can
expect
involve the
to do it all.
GM in that if you need to,
Sure.
because you may have questions about the premise. You may have questions about the world, and if your elf idea really does work in that world.
Exactly.
That's
Talk it
very
over.
important. That's why you have to involve each other in the prep. That's huge.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
What was the fourth one we did? Prep. You got to be careful about your prep that it doesn't become scripted.
Correct.
Don't have your prep be so exhaustive that there's no room for player agency, nor have your prep be so pushy that you're constantly pushing the characters rather than the characters providing their own action and then you reacting to it.
Right. Absolutely.
Excuse me. And then lastly, no prep. Your prep should show your commitment to the experience that you want at the table. It also can show your lack of commitment, both on the player side and the GM side.
Yep.
So don't overdo anything. And then we said this a couple times. Hey, if you love world building, that's a part of the hobby that you just enjoy. Knock your socks off. Don't go for it.
But be careful it doesn't become a maze that you drop the players into.
That's right. Premises are great. Motivations, fantastic. Things happen in the world. Some things happen in the world outside of player character control.
Yeah. It should sometimes.
It should, absolutely. But it should not be a scripted experience. Right. You're not getting on the ride and then the ride runs on the same track that it's going to run on every time. And then you get off the ride at the end. That's a scripted thing. You don't want that.
It should go without saying that players need to agree with this stylistically, but the benefit you'll see in this stuff is that players feel as if they are in a world, and that world can be kind of dangerous, and that you are on your own, and that's an awesome place to be creatively.
Totally, completely.
You want to be out there in the depths. That's where it becomes interesting. You don't want to be hugging the shoreline.
Yeah, no, exactly. And that's why perhaps the railroad moniker is appropriate, because the train can only go on those rails.
Right.
And but I'm more interested when the train goes off the track. And see
For sure.
Yep.
Awesome. Good stuff. Well, thanks again, guys. A couple more we're going to buzz through. The reactionary. Max says, good stream. Thanks, buddy. Appreciate you.
Thanks, Max.
We'll have to do something soon, man. Something. I don't know. Don't be lazy or overbearing. Balance. Yeah, that's a really good point.
Very true.
Yeah, don't mess with my time. It's our only unrenewable resource. And if you show up and you're just not ready to go, then that's annoying too.
Totally.
So we didn't spend a ton of time on under preparation, not to be confused with a deliberate UNPC. That's a different animal. But
it's different.
Yeah. So I think we did it, Chris. I think we're good. Let's let these people go. Let me let you get some sleep.
Yeah, sorry about that, folks.
Don't apologize, man. You did over 2 hours. That was great. We could go longer. I know we could.
Yeah. A couple old guys like us shutting this up. That's the problem.
No shit. Yeah. All right. We get it. You could have done this in an hour.
Every time.
All right, man. Y'all guys have a good one. Thank you so much, Crispy. Don't forget to check out Tablerunner Crispy's YouTube. It's awesome. It's in the show notes. Shout out to everybody who showed up in the live chat. If we missed your comments, I'm sorry. I'm still trying to get good at balancing that without letting it derail my windbagging. So there you have it. Don't forget to like and subscribe. You know the drill, and we'll catch you next time. Peace.
See ya.